everybody. Good morning, everybody. How are we? How are we all today? I'm just going to take a second to get all my stuff ready, and then we'll be going over literally every single new feature in the game in this new update. All right. Okay. Let me just get my stuff ready. This on the background that you can see is quite literally everything. It's all here. And I'm gonna, oh, what's that? No, you don't get that yet. Good morning. Hello, everybody. All right, I'll just be a second. I'm just gonna get the stuff ready on my end. Enjoy the music. And we'll be going through everything. 7 p.m. It is 8:50 a.m. Australian time. Bit of a late start for me, I guess. Okay. Oh, all right, let's do this. This is exciting. So let's wind down the music a little bit. All right, we'll be going silent this stream because we're also recording this for a YouTube video too. So I'm gonna edit all this stream, package it together, and we'll put this up on our channel like this weekend too. So if you miss anything right now, I will be going back over it again. But this is going to be like the full detailed version. This is going to be the version that I go through literally every little thing. And then the YouTube video after this is going to be like not nearly as detailed. So I guess keep that in mind. You're going to get a whole bunch of stuff on the stream that you won't get otherwise. But today we are going over every single little feature in the new Lens Island update. So this is like a pretty big video. This is important for a lot of reasons, but this is like literally. I'll probably forget some stuff. I've basically written down a huge list here, and I'm going to go through it one by one, like this, and basically tell you everything that's new in the new update. I like point by point because what I want is just to give you the full picture of like what we've been working on and what's happening to Lens Island, because we've been working on the game and this new update for like months and months and months. It's probably almost like 6 months at this point, which we've been working on this update. So we've done a lot of YouTube videos. We've done a lot of like announcements and stuff sort of saying what the different features are, but it's also not all of it. There's been so many things. And I've also probably forgotten a bunch of things. So if I remember them, I'll try to add them to the list or just like bring them up as we go. But yeah, this is the official every single new feature happening in Lens Island in the next update. We're yet to release the exact date that the new update comes out. It will be around like a month and a half from now, maybe a bit sooner. So give or take, like we'll be like a bit over a month is when like generally it will come out, but we'll release the proper date and everything pretty soon. And also just a quick plug, Patreon supporters have access to a bunch of this stuff already. They probably only have access to like half of this, I would say. The other half we're still working on. A lot of stuff on this board is actually already finished, and it's like we've completed it. Oh, I literally just remembered something that I forgot to put down. We'll add that at the end. That can be so. At the end, for anything that I remember that I've forgotten, I'll add it to this board right at the end, and we'll go through all the like the extra stuff. All right, let's get started. Let's get started, everybody. All right, and also we've got the chat on the screen. So if you have any questions about the stuff that I'm talking about, just ask me. Just just let me know and I can elaborate further, or if you have any ideas or anything, let me know. I'll talk about them even further. Let's boost up that just a little bit. Okay, maybe a little bit more. Alrighty, let's get into it. This is, yes, it's very exciting. Number one, building. So building, this is basically just like building anything in Lens Island, right? This is the first category. This is stuff that you can build using the building system, but it influences more than just like building a wall. It's like how you interact and like how you actually use the items that you can build in your house. So very first thing, anvil. So anvils have been added to the game. Anvils will be the new way that you upgrade all of your items inside of Lens Island. So if you have an iron sword, you put it into an anvil, you drag it into the anvil. Oh, we got lag again. This stream lag will be the actual death of me. Look, I do have new settings. If it's still lagging, I really don't know what to do other than like the dropping frames. Maybe you'll just have to deal with it for now, and there will be a YouTube video coming up. I feel like it's maybe just the internet here at the studio is a bit unreliable. Let me really quickly see if there's a couple things I can do. I don't know. I think we might have to deal with how it is at the moment. If it is like maybe I think I might even just start doing these streams at my home because I feel like see, I'm even looking at my dropped frames and it's really high. It's like 64% dropped frames. All right, quick. Look, everybody, we're going to do a real quick Google for dropped frames, everybody, for like 2 minutes. 2 minutes. I'm going to see if I can fix our dropped frames problem. And then if I can't fix it in 2 minutes, we'll just get back to it. All right, I'll chuck the music back on. Give me 1 second. And we'll just hang out for 1 second while I get this ready, all right? I'll talk more about the anvil in a second. Let's see if we can fix this. I basically just have a bunch of wikis on my other page. And let's see if we can adjust the latency. But I don't really know how to adjust like the latency in OBS, right? Like I don't really. Didn't see any lag. Actually, are we running on Ethernet? Yeah, we are. It says firewall could be an option. I sort of doubt it, to be completely honest. Alright, just a second everybody. I just want to see if I can make it a little bit better. Like, just reduce these drop frames a little bit. So let's just see if I can fix that up. Let's suggest maybe a dynamic bit rate could help us. So let's give that a go. Variable bit rate. The FPS makes you look animated. Okay. Because I changed our stream server, I think I just got on recommended, right? Oh, it's just like the YouTube server. I can't change that. Alright, I'm changing a couple things. We'll see if it makes any difference. I think there's a couple more settings I can change in OBS. 1 second. Let's see if that's any better. We're switched over to Wi-Fi. I think we've officially converted over. My OBS is not responding. That's not great. I feel like streaming's so easy from home, and at work everything just shuts down. This is a really exciting stream. I got a lot of cool stuff to show you all. Oh, it is better? I'm on the old phone hotspot Wi-Fi. Are you telling me that my phone hotspot? Oh, look at that. Yeah, my bit rate on OBS. So like this. Sorry everybody for that. Sorry everybody for making you watch this. But wait, this used to be like red the whole time. Look, 0% drop frame. Okay, so it's literally just the internet. Okay, so it's the office internet. Something about our office internet absolutely poos the bed. Okay, we fixed it. We fixed it. Congratulations, everybody. Now you don't have to deal with this terrible lagging. So that's a big win. Let me get this to the right size again. Bam. Okay. I don't know what you're talking about, Steph. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. we made it. We made it. We made it. Okay. We're just gonna start this from the top. All right. Let's pretend the past 10 minutes, 15 minutes, that didn't happen. All right. We all got to keep up the ruse, everybody. Nothing happened. It's all good. We just started the stream for the first time. All right, let's pause the music. Oh shit, we got to wrap up the anvil. You don't know about that yet. All right, let me quickly read some comments and then we'll get into it. First time maybe we could use a Java refined from olives used in cooking. No more lag. Yeah, that's awesome. Been following the game since Steam Next Fest. Oh yeah, cool. But wasn't able to pick it up. Do you guys still offer a demo? We don't offer a demo at the moment. Maybe in the future we'll have more demos coming out. When we release this update, there will be a sale. So there will be, like, you can pick up Lens Island on discount when we have this next update. So what this video is right now is I'm going to basically, you can see on the background of the screen, this is every single feature that's coming to this new Lens Island update. I can already think of a few that I've missed. So at the end of the video, we'll go back through and we'll type in any ones that we missed. But this is generally every little thing. This update involves so much more than what we've really talked about. It is like a really, really big amount of new content. Quick plug for the Patreon. If you want access to most of the stuff on this board right now, you can join the alpha testing, alpha access group on Patreon, and you'll get access to the new, like an alpha build of the new update. But there's a bunch of stuff on this board that isn't in that alpha build yet. The alpha build is really, really early. But if you want access to it. Okay, let's begin. So this is every single new feature, minus the ones I've forgotten, that are going to be in this new Lens Island update. So let's start. I've got this beautiful Photoshop document that I made, by the way. let's start with building. So this is anything that you can build in around your house. This isn't just like building a wall or something. This is built like anything and what your relationship with those buildings sort of are. First one, we have anvil. So in this new update, you can build an anvil. I am going to just basically talk through everything in full detail in this, and then we'll make a dev diary of this video and add some cool looking images and stuff like that. But with the anvil, you place an anvil in your house, and that's how you upgrade everything. That's how you upgrade weapons, armor, tools, all of it. So if you get an iron sword, you drag your iron sword into anvil, you craft it and upgrade it to a hard steel sword. So you can also upgrade way more items than what you could before. So every single weapon can be upgraded, just like before. You can upgrade your tools, and that's including stuff like scythes and watering cans, torches, and like some other things that couldn't be upgraded before can now all be upgraded at the anvil. And also armor. So there is like all these collectible sets of armor that are completely different sets, so have different abilities, but you can upgrade all of them. So you can find armor already starting at different levels across the game. You could find an armor that's sort of like a green set of a green iron level, or you could find a bit of armor that's like hard steel blue level, or even like straight at titanium, and then you can actually upgrade them at the workbench. So all bits of armor in the game, the consistency that they share is their like level coincides with the amount of armor that they block. But we have a whole armor section, so we'll talk more about that afterwards. Okay, armor stand. So you can build an armor stand in your house. So that is like a typical like little wooden pole stand, and every single like bit of armor in the game, you can basically like put that on a mannequin, and then you can use that as like a quick equip feature too, because armor in Lens Island has unique abilities for every single bit of armor. So what you can do is build an armor stand, put all your favorite bits of armor. Let's say I've got an armor stand that looks like a dungeon crawling warrior, and then I've got another armor stand that looks like a farmer. I could just like quickly, if I just came back from a dungeon crawl and I need to like water my crops, I could really quickly run up to my farming armor stand, click on it, hit equip all, and it'll just instantly equip all of my farming gear, and then I could like go outside and like water my crops and wear my farmer's hat and get all my farmer buffs from my farmer's outfit. So easy way to like equip and like also show off all your cool armor and outfits. By the way, I'll also be talking about throughout this video the ideas that won that last video. So if you haven't seen a previous dev diary on our channel, we basically asked for your votes for ideas. So talking about armor, the cosmetic armor, we're calling them outfits. That was the one that was the vote that won, outfits. Seed storage. We're including a bunch of new storage items in this update. I'll include why, because these more storage items are like a really specific reason and an important reason. But number one, seed storage. There'll be an exclusive storage item. They'll look really cool. We've already built it. It's already in the game, at least in like the testing branch. I actually need to update it for the testing branch. But all of your different seeds, you can store directly in the seed storage. Looks cool. You can build them like near your farms and just sort of like a bit of added decoration as well as utility. Small storage box. So you unlock this right at the start of the game when you get your first workbench level. There is a small storage box that you can build. It only has a few slots. I think it's like 5 or 6 slots that it has, but it's really cheap to build, and you can store any item in the game in it. Well, any resource in the game. So every single item from your resources tab in your inventory, you can store every single item in that. Again, its storage is a bit more important in this next update. Pantry food storage. So there is a new pantry that you can build, and you can basically store every single kind of food in the game in your pantry. So like you said, there's a bunch of new storage. There's basically armor storage, seed storage, any storage, food storage. Okay. This is an interesting one. So this is one that I've been wanting to work on for a little while now, that I'm sort of like halfway. Actually, the alpha testers don't really have this yet. So the alpha testers, I'll actually be working on this in the next couple days. So one of your next builds within the next week will have this change in place. I basically want to make all constructs, all decoration items in general, easy to place, more flexible. Like, do you know if you're playing Valheim or like another type of like sort of like build snapping game, like you can sort of like put stuff in between each other. You could like get a plank of wood, another plank of wood, and sort of like merge them inside each other and make cool, sorts of like shapes and stuff. And it's a bit more creative. Like Lens Island has been always a little bit more restricted. Like you're trying to place like a chest or something, and then you got like a lamp, and it's like there's like this sort of like annoying gap between them, and you're like, oh, like I wish I could place them a little bit closer, or I wish like it wasn't so strict. So like we've always kept it a little bit strict just to make sure that people don't do like whack stuff and houses and everything sort of look nice. But I think it's a bit too strict. So I'm basically going to make, in general, stuff across Lens Island a lot more like free to place. So you can place stuff inside of each other, and you could just basically be a bit more creative with like a lot of your combinations of building pieces and stuff like that. New workbench. This is already fully done. All the alpha testers will actually be already seeing this. It needs some balancing and stuff, but overall it's done. Workbench has been completely overhauled and remade. You only learn building and decoration and storage and like construction items from a workbench now. You don't learn any weapons or anything else, and the whole UI for it, all of the different workbench levels, all the different costs, everything completely redone, completely rebalanced. I really like the new workbench. I think it looks really cool. And you can see everything that you unlock from the next level. So every single time that you basically have a level of the workbench, there's like this big grid of every single thing you're going to learn at the next level, and you can hover over them, see their full descriptions. So you can just like generally get a lot more information from the workbench and like why you would want to upgrade to the next level, which is really cool. Okay, this also follows on from our vote for your ideas category, wall lamps. So these are the next 3 decoration items that are going to be the next update. So there's going to be wall lamps. You'll be able to place, I'll try and add more than one because I love you all so much. I'll try and add a couple of wall lamps. So there's be lighting that you can build in your house that actually attaches to walls and not the floor. So that'll be a cool way to light areas, or even just like look pretty. The wall lamps aren't going to have the biggest light radius, so they're probably not going to be the best thing to light up your house, but they'll just generally like look really pretty. Fish tanks or aquariums. This was a very requested decoration item from everybody. So what this will be is there will be aquariums. I'm going to try to do two sizes of aquariums in this next update. So if you catch a fish, you can actually store the fish in the aquarium. So the fish tank also doubles as like a storage item. So you can actually like sort of store fish in it. But then the aquariums will actually show the fish that's inside. So there'll be a small aquarium that's more like akin to like a fish bowl, and you'll only be able to store bluegills and sardines, and then you'll actually see the fish like inside the fish bowl. But then you can get like a large aquarium that you could place like up against a wall. The large aquariums cost tons of glass, so you're going to have to be grinding out that limestone refinery build to get all your glass. But then if you get enough glass, you can build an aquarium, and then if you catch like some rare fugu fish or a swordfish, you can actually sort of like have them inside your aquarium just sort of like floating around and show them off. Next thing, paintings. So we're going to add some more like wall decorations and paintings. So I'll try to add like a few of them, but there'll basically be some cool little decoration paintings just to like fill a bit of life inside your house and make it look a bit cooler. But yeah, like that is like an update in itself, right? Everything I just said, it's like, yeah, wow, that's a lot of stuff you can build. That is one tiny area. I think I've already forgotten stuff to do with the building, and you can see all the stuff that's left on my screen. So we'll go left to right, top to bottom. We'll save the real juicy stuff till last. Right at the end here, these two, they may seem small, but that's the cursed dungeons and the procedural caves, which is like a really, really big thing in this next update. Let's go on to combat. All right, there's been some big combat changes. So this is a bunch of stuff we actually changed like a few months ago. And it's really easy for me to forget that we changed all of this because we spent a long time on this. Every single weapon in Lens Island has brand new abilities. So literally every ability in a game has been completely rebuilt, completely changed from the ground up. Abilities felt like they were a bit lacking before. Like you sort of didn't really care about using abilities when you're in combat. You're like, oh yeah, like you see an ability come off cooldown and I might as well use it. Now it's like abilities are much more prominent. They do more damage, a lot more like useful, and they're just generally, you were just like waiting for your abilities to go off cooldown when you're dungeon crawling and you're using them all the time. They have much bigger AoEs, areas of damage. So before, the abilities used to be, we're going to use a toothbrush as an example here. This is my sword, this is my toothbrush. So before there used to be like a hitbox like around my sword. So if I have ability where I like swing my sword around in a circle, it would still have like a hitbox that follows that sword. So it would still be like a little bit hard to hit enemies. You'd have to be pretty sort of precise. The new system, when I'm just going to get random objects on my desk here. When I swing my sword around in a thing, it just has like this giant area, which is like a big hitbox that turns on. And it's like a big AoE hitbox. So it's way easier to hit enemies from your abilities. And generally, the abilities do more knockback. They have like cooler effects. The animations are completely redone for every single weapon. The hammer abilities, by the way, feel so cool and they're so juicy. So yeah, new abilities. Bam, all weapon animations are updated. Literally every single weapon in the game has new animations. All of the timings have been changed. They've been tightened up. I think a lot of feedback we got from earlier versions of Lens Island was that the combat felt a little bit sort of like loose and a little bit mushy. That was because like we use all like sort of like mo-capped, like realistic animations for everything, but they definitely needed to feel a bit more like tight. So we've really tightened up all the animations, tightened up all the timing. And the second part of this is it is way easier to hit crits now. So the way that weapons worked previously in Lens Island was if there was like a weapon that had like a chain of basic attacks, every single basic attack would be like slightly different timing. So it's like, swipe 1, the animation clip is like this big, and then swipe 2, it's like that big, and then swipe 3, it's like little, and then it's like big again. They're like different timings. But what we've done is we made them all consistent for every single weapon. So like every single sword's attack is exactly the same length. And what I actually did, this is like a little game design trick that I did, by the way. No one's going to notice this, but everyone here in the stream and watching on YouTube, you guys are going to notice it. And every time you're using the weapon, you're going to be like, I know what he did there. I actually matched like the BPM of each weapon to like popular like songs and like popular BPMs of like pop culture, like pop music. So it's like the sword has like a very specific BPM, and every single crit hits exactly on that BPM, and all the BPMs match like the most common BPMs inside music. And it's just like a real like niche little like thing in the back end that no one's gonna realize, but hopefully like subconsciously when people like fighting weapons and like doing attacks, they're subconsciously like thinking like singing a Kesha song in their mind, and it's perfectly lining up to the beats. So yeah, we'll see if that actually plays out, but that is something that I did spend way too much time doing. Next thing, updated weapon pop-up UI. So now the weapons show you like all the little nitty-gritty details, and you can make like much better like educated decisions on all the weapons. So when you hover over a weapon, it shows you the full DPS, it shows you like the crits per second DPS, it shows you all the abilities, like specific info, it shows you like a whole bunch of really specific information. It just generally like looks a lot prettier. So you can make a lot better decisions when you're actually like using and upgrading weapons and stuff now. There is a little bit more than that with the weapons, but that's the easiest way to like explain that stuff so far. Okay, enchanting. This is a big one. There's sort of like 4 really big things in this update. Enchanting is one of them. The other one is armor. The other one is cursed dungeons. The other one is procedural caves. So enchanting, first big hitter. So what is enchanting? We have the enchantment table. This could technically be in the building section. You can build an enchantment table in your house. This is like an item that you sort of get a little bit later in the workbench. You have to sort of build up to it a little bit. But any item in the game, pretty much anything that you can equip, can be enchanted. You can enchant a sword, a hammer, a shield. You can enchant like an axe, a pickaxe. And you can enchant armor as well. And we're also looking into enchanting like watering cans and scythes and torches, and like having some interesting enchantments for other types of tools. I'm not sure if like the watering cans and torch sort of enchantments will be ready for this next update. But the weapons and the armor and all that stuff definitely will be. Okay, so that's what I just said. I'm going to step through some of the enchantments now. This isn't all of them. These are just the ones that we've already built that are basically like, sort of in the game that we're currently testing. So we've got electrify. This is basically like chain lightning. So you like put chain lightning on anything, and if you hit something, there's like a percentage chance that you proc chain lightning, and then lightning will basically like string to different enemies. There's also different levels of chain lightning. So you can get like a basic chain lightning that only does sort of like 2 to 3 sort of chains, and then you can get like a high tier chain lightning that you get sort of like deeper into the game. And that does like several chains to different enemies. All these enchanting, this works through runes. So like a bunch of the runes you'll get sort of for free when you first build an enchantment table. But some of the runes you actually have to buy from the druid and from the sorcerer. So they'll actually sell these enchantment runes for like a lot of money. So that's another way to basically spend all of your gold profits from farming or fishing or doing other things in the game. And you'll be able to buy these like high tier, like rare runes. Which also, by the way, like I said, the druid sells them. The druid's back in the game. That also reminds me, I completely forgot to write down the town in this list. There is so much stuff I've forgotten in this list, but we'll add it at the end. Next one, burning. So we've actually added fire propagation inside of Lens Island. Alpha testers have had actually a version of this, but technically you can build the enchantment table in the current alpha test, but a bunch of stuff is like broken and turned off and stuff, so it's not really proper. But there's fire propagation. There is full fire in Lens Island. Len can get burnt. Enemies can get burnt. Enemies can go into another enemy and make that other enemy get burnt. So like this inside of the dungeons, when there's like gigantic groups of enemies, is pretty insane. Like if you're in one of the corrupt dungeons where it's like, you know, there are lots of smaller hallways and then a lot larger volumes of enemies. All it takes is just lighting one enemy on fire, and then suddenly like your entire screen is just like a wildfire of enemies everywhere. And then like they're burning and you're burning and it's chaotic. So burning can be like really good, but also really chaotic and really bad at the same time. Holographic. Holographic is an enchantment that makes anything, including like a pickaxe or a scythe or a tool as well. It basically scales it up as you do your attack. So if I have like a sword, every time I swipe my sword, my whole sword expands and becomes like double the size. So it increases your reach and like basically the hitbox of any weapon. This is like especially like interesting when you have it on something like a spear, because you can basically be doing jabs of a spear, but then you can like be hitting an enemy from literally like so far away because your spear like doubles in length. So yeah, it's just like a really good solid just like ability for just increasing your range. Lifesteal, pretty straightforward. You can steal life from enemies. Weighted basically makes any weapon in the game's attack speed slower but raises its damage. So imagine if you put weighted on a hammer, your hammer is like really, really slow, but you just one-shot enemies with every single hit. We also have the opposite of weighted, swiftness. So this raises the attack speed. It makes any weapon in the game quicker, but lowers its damage slightly. Overall, both of these will increase your DPS. So you will overall do more damage per second. They'll just become a little bit more different to use. Detonate, this is basically when an enemy dies, it has a percentage chance to blow up. So if you can imagine, if you have a whole bunch of enemies in a room that have relatively low health, if one detonates, it could be enough to set off a big chain reaction to make every single enemy in that room blow up, and then that blow up does damage to another one that makes them blow up, and so on. So this can be a really interesting enchantment. There's different like levels and tiers for all these enchantments as well. Some are higher tier, some are lower tier. Smite. So this is like you basically build up stacks of like electricity above an enemy. And then after it, the sort of like, so imagine like every 2 seconds, there's sort of like a tick of smite. And if you hit the enemy within that, it'll just keep adding to the stacks. And then if you don't hit them quick enough, then the stacks will go off and it'll basically strike that enemy. And the more stacks of smite you have, the more damage. So it's a way to sort of just like instantly just execute an enemy if you get a bunch of stacks. Obviously really good for bosses. Like smite is like boss killing central. And then illuminate. This is more of like a utilitarian sort of enchantment, but you can basically enchant anything to glow in the dark with a light. Yeah. Quick little pause break. I think my second camera's turned off. Hey Steph, do you want to make sure that camera's still on? I think I might have turned off. Sorry, we're recording this on another camera for the YouTube video, and I just don't. I feel like I don't. Oh, it's still on. Oh, okay, so I thought I saw the light turn off. All right, we're all good. We're all good. Next one, armor. This is another big one. I said there's four big areas of this update. Armor's the second one. Okay, so player armor and stats window. There is a whole new sort of like section to the inventory, which is like the player window. So this is where you can actually see like a detailed up close view of the player, which you haven't been able to see before. So you can like show off and see all your pretty armor. This is where all of your armor slots actually store, and you can also see all of the stats on the other side of the player with your current armor effects. So armor doesn't just block damage. Every piece of armor in Lens Island also has like unique effects tied to them. So there's a new armor bar. So at the bottom of the screen, get out of here. We've ruined it. Wait a second. There we go. On the bottom of the screen, Lens Island, in the hotbar, there is like an armor bar and a food bar now. So the armor bar is sort of like a new way that we've sort of outlined armor in the game. There are helms, chest plates, braces, and greaves. By the way, I haven't spelt check any of this. I wrote this all in Photoshop, so there's probably 1 million spelling mistakes. So yeah, that'll be a bit of fun. That's like a little Easter egg in this video. There's a whole bunch of different armor sets. Oh, I've done it again. this stupid thing. So I'm in Photoshop bootstrapping this. There we go. Yeah, so every single bit of armor in the whole game has like a unique effect. So for example, the leather armor being lightweight armor for sort of like fencing and also, you know, I guess like more play fighting, I guess you could say, that actually raises your critical hit multiplier. So leather armor might not block as much damage as the armor sets, but then it also basically makes you do bigger crits. So all of the different sets of armors can basically have effects that are actually tied to the armor that can't be changed, and that can give them like some really unique builds. So you can imagine you can also enchant bits of armor as well. When I'm not sure about like the like how, you know, there'll only be some enchantments available for the armor. These are all weapon enchantments that I've got listed here. The armor enchantments will be different. But imagine you could have like a sword, and then you could enchant that sword, and then you could have a shield, and then you could enchant that shield, and then you could wear armor, and then all the armor has unique effects, and then you could enchant all that armor and get even more unique effects, and then upgrade all that stuff. So you can imagine there is like a pretty crazy builds that you can do in Lens Island after this. So I'll go through all the armor sets that we're currently, pretty much all of these are done, besides one. Sorry, I'm just going to clear my throat. We've got leather armor, knight's armor, druid armor, spiked armor. We have Viking armor. Viking armor looks so cool, by the way. So cool. Ancient armor. Wrecked armor. This is like shipwrecked armor. We have a farmer outfit. We are adding a fishing outfit, a sorcerer's outfit, an adventurer outfit. The adventurer outfit actually won the vote in our last video to add a new outfit to the game. So there's going to be like a Indiana Jones Uncharted looking outfit for Len. So all of these will all be in the next update. All these besides the outfits, all of the armors have like every single one. Like, so there's a matching helmet, chest, braces, and greaves for every single one of these armor sets. And then for the outfits, not all of them have like all four. Some of them have like 2 or 3. They're a bit more like sporadic. But yeah, there's basically like a proper set for every single one of these. So it is literally like dozens and dozens of new armor pieces added to the game. Okay, so now let's move this up a little bit, just while we go over this green one. So I can already think of a couple things I've forgotten, but survival. This is one that probably a bunch of people are not expecting to the game. But this is basically us starting to tweak and balance and change the survival mechanics of Lens Island. In general, and don't get too scared if you're more of like a pacifist player. Lens Island's going to get a little bit more hardcore, a little bit more survival-y in some ways, but also Lens Island becomes way easier in all these ways. So you can imagine if you can enchant all your stuff, if you can wear all this crazy armor, there needs to be something to balance it out, right? If Len just became way more powerful in every conceivable way, you're just going to be like a god, and the whole game's going to be way too easy. So we have to sort of balance that out somehow, and the way we're doing that is just introducing some more interesting survival mechanics. So one of them, hunger's been reworked. So there's a new hunger UI, and hunger's generally been reworked. Your hunger drains quicker. The best example I can give is like Minecraft. Hunger has like a very, very similar relationship in Lens Island as it does to Minecraft. Your hunger will drain a bit quicker than it did before. All of the foods, all of like the basic foods in Lens Island, like vegetables and fruits and stuff that aren't cooked, won't really replenish any health. They'll replenish hunger, and then you'll heal when you have full hunger. You're going to have to get into the cooking and like the potion making in order to start to get foods that actually give you like health and hearts. So that's something that's changed a little bit. At the start of the game, it's definitely a little bit harder to replenish your health. And generally there's like a bit more of an emphasis put on cooking. So we're going to be rebalancing cooking, rebalancing all the potions. We want people to be crafting more potions and be like baking stuff and actually like taking the cooking a little bit more seriously, as well as like catching fish and cooking fish too. All right, next thing, getting hit by trees and just generally falling off ledges in Lens Island does more damage. So if a tree falls on your head, it will do more damage than what it did before. If you fall off the edge in the dungeons, it will do a bit more damage than before. Just generally, you just need to be a little bit more careful with where you step and what you do in Lens Island, because there will be greater repercussions. But if you're wearing some brand new armor, you can help offset all those sort of damage changes. Enemies do slightly more damage. This is because you have slightly more health because of all the armor. So at the start of the game, Lens Island is definitely a bit harder. Lens Island is just like, it is generally a little bit more rough at the start, but when you get to like the middle to the end game, it becomes a bit easier because of all of this stuff. The other like key aspect of like the survival part as well is all of this can be really easily sort of like combated now, because we have new areas of the game, we have new levels like a procedural cave, which I'll go through at the end. And just generally speaking, it is like really easy to sort of like counteract any parts of the game that are harder while being like a farmer or something. So like if you have trouble like with the dungeon crawling or something, if you're finding yourself die a lot, if you suck at fighting, that's okay, because the game's not just like way harder and you just have to deal with it. You can use farming and fishing and building and like sort of gaining, you know, money through not dungeon crawling, through other means. You can use that to your advantage a lot more now than what you could before. So like now you can like become a fisherman, become like a miner or a farmer, make a bunch of money, buy a bunch of armor, buy rare runes, enchant all your weapons, and then be way, way more powerful in the dungeons. So then this stuff doesn't even matter, and you're actually more powerful than what you were before. Next thing, you start with a bit lower health. Again, this is just offsetting the fact that we give you way more health for the armor. We have to offset it somehow. Starving will take you down to 5 health. I believe starving from hunger before took you down to around 50 health, like half. So you'll almost die if you don't eat. So this generally in Lens Island now, you just got to be, there's just like a bit more consequences to the stuff you do, right? You just got to be a little bit more careful. Inventory starts at 50 slots. You will still be able to upgrade it, and you will still be able to get to more slots. The next inventory level is 100 slots, but you'll start the game with a bit smaller inventory now. So the other thing I've forgotten to add, let's just make a quick little edit here. If I forget anything throughout this video, I'm just going to quickly edit it as I go. So where's our survival? Let's duplicate that. And then what we got is drop entire backpack when you die. I've already talked about this a few times, but I, for some reason, forgot to put it in this list. Whoops. You will drop your entire backpack when you die. Okay, now we can go back in here and we go bam, bam. Okay, cool. So that's why we've also added a whole bunch more storage, right? So there's a whole bunch of new places to store your items, because now when you die, you drop them all on the ground. So you have to be a little bit more careful. The game generally is becoming a bit more, you know, higher consequences for your actions, basically. That's the big one. Okay, let's move over here. Let's talk about farming and miscellaneous. So number one, there is a brand new skill tree, and it's got nothing to do with farming, but this is miscellaneous. So this is ones that I couldn't find a category for. The whole skill tree is actually like sort of completely redone. Alpha testers have the access to like the very, very beginning. So the skill tree currently live in our alpha build is just literally like the first little starter tutorial part of the skill tree. There's basically, it's going to branch off and become way, way bigger. So the skill tree is in general going to be much larger than the skill tree was previously, and you're going to step through it a fair bit slower. Like it's going to take longer to get through it. This is another way that like you'll become more powerful through this new skill tree. So we have to make the game a little bit harder in some ways in order to sort of offset that power. So let me catch up on some of the comments. Make sure that I answering some of your questions. Adverse to attack. Yeah, look, I like to think of combat as like a bit of a dance. So like every game does combat differently, right? But I like combat being more than just button mashing and then just like seeing something on your screen, going up to it and button mashing. I really don't think that it's just not much depth. There's not much depth to that system. But if you combine the combat with a lot of movement, and you have to really worry about positioning, and then you also combine that combat with rewarding the player for timing, then you get a really interesting system. The other thing that is further, like even more interesting in this new update is there's actually, you can make the crits more of a big deal, and you can make it so you get rewarded even more for hitting crits, or you can make the crits and the critical hits and the timing not as important, because you could make every weapon in the game slower. For example, with the weighted ability, you can make weapons generally slower and easier to hit crits. Or you could just simply make them faster and just like not even worry about the crits. And then with the new skill tree, you can actually choose. There are basically choices in the skill tree now that you pick one or the other. And you can choose to raise your base damage instead of raising your critical hit damage. So if you don't quite like the timing-based aspects of the combat, you can sort of choose to sort of like optimize them out of the game to an extent. Like you will get punished a little bit, but generally speaking, you can choose to like go down a different route if you don't like that. But it is something that makes Lens Island very, very cool and unique, and I love it, and it's not going anywhere. So that is definitely like a central part of the game is the critical hits. And the rhythm's not random. The rhythm is set to every weapon, and it is like a set sort of BPM that is consistent for every single weapon. So all you have to do is just remember one time frame. There's like the timer between 2 clicks, and that's it. And then you've mastered that weapon for eternity, and it won't change. In previous versions of Lens Island, the weapons got faster, and the timing changed every single time you upgraded a weapon. That you no longer have to do. So in general, the timing of all the crits for all the weapons is way, way easier. Like literally for swords in the game, you just remember the timing once. It is just like the second you use a sword, for every single sword in the rest of the game, every time you update it, every time you change it, it won't change. The only things that will ever change the timing is if you purposely change it yourself with these enchantments, the weighted and the swiftness. That will either make it a little bit faster or a little bit slower, but it'll always stay consistent. So in general, the timing is way easier to use now than in previous versions of the game. Oh, you will not have to, we won't force a save wipe or anything. So you won't have to reset your progress in this new update. I honestly suggest you do, because we've changed all of the towns, we've changed so much in the game. There's a lot of like really cool new stuff in this update, and the whole sort of beginning of the game has been totally rebalanced. So in my experience, doing a lot of playtesting myself, the start of the game is really, really different and really, really fun. I think it's like so much better than what it used to be. So I would suggest that you start from scratch, but you don't actually, you don't have to. Okay. Next thing, trees knock down other trees, including fruit trees. So basically, if you have one tree and another tree, and if you chop down this tree, it will fall and it'll hit that tree, and you can basically have these giant dominoes of cascading trees, like all hitting each other. So it's like a really fun thing to do. Like if you're chopping down trees, now you can sort of like line up all the angles and like get them to hit other trees. But this also happens for fruit trees. So this also adds in a little bit more consequences to the way that you lay out your farms and then the way that you do sort of harvest your fruit trees. Because if you have like a big row of banana trees, it can be like a really like quick and effective way to harvest them all. You knock one down and they all go like do and all sort of like, domino each other. But your fruit trees can also destroy your crops. So can normal trees. So if you chop a tree and it falls on all your blueberry bushes, it is going to like flatten all your crops. So you generally have to be a bit more careful when chopping down trees and harvesting your crops now. Crops can now die if not watered for a couple of days. So I said we're adding some more consequences to the game, and this sort of goes for a lot of areas of the game, including farming. So basically, if you don't water your crops, they'll die. They'll become like withered little, dry crops. However, you get fibers from dead crops. So this is actually technically a way to make fiber farms in the game now, is you can basically grow your crops, sort of like grow them above a seedling, and then basically like purposely not water them and purposely dry them out and then use that as a fiber farm. So I like to try to think of in terms of like, how do we not just like punish the player for no reason? How do we add like a secondary mechanic to make it a little bit more interesting? And that's like a way to do that. Potentially another sort of interesting secondary mechanic, this isn't in yet, but I want to add this in the future, is where we have the burning effect up here, burning trees to basically char them and then being able to actually harvest coal from trees. So like other like interesting relationships like that is stuff that I want to look into in the future. You can now grow mushrooms in the caves. So you're going, hey, you can't build in the caves. So there's now like a delineation in Lens Island. There is procedural caves and dungeons. I'll talk about the procedural caves at the end because that's like a huge, gigantic part of this new update. But basically, you can now have big mushroom farms, and the mushrooms only grow in the dungeons. So you can now have underground farms, which are completely different, and mushrooms generally are a bit better and have some more varied cooking recipes now. So there's a bit of a desire to actually start building underground. Trees regrow much slower. So previously, this was like a subtle annoyance of mine for a long time. You have a nice house, and then a tree just like constantly keeps growing in like front of your vision all the time in front of your house, and you're constantly every single day it feels like you're chopping down that tree. So now the trees regrow a lot slower. They regrow. I think we've got it set to 20 days now. I might make it a little bit quicker, but it's basically generally really slow. However, you can go up to any tree in the game and water it with a watering can, and a little sapling will grow out of the stump. And then the next day, that tree will regrow again. So you can basically make like tree farms. Like you could chop down an entire island worth of trees, and then you can like go around and water all the tree stumps, and then make all those trees regrow the next day. So we didn't want to just make trees regrow slower if there's no way to sort of like offset them that, right? So there needs to be a way to actually like sort of use that to your ability. All right, next thing. Tree. Oh yeah, I literally just said that. The trees can be watered the next day. And I guess I'll just undo that. So next thing is we merged the WASD and mouse controls. This is like a subtle little thing, and all of our current alpha testers may or may not have actually like noticed this changing. But you can actually, I might just quickly show you. Right? Will my keyboard reach? I'll unplug my keyboard and I'll plug it back in. Right? Oh, there we go. Here's my beautiful keyboard. So previously, there was basically different ability keys. So previously, Q and E, those two keys, they were the abilities. And then if you had Q was roll on mouse based, but then if you're using WASD, shift was roll. And all the ability keys all got shifted down one on the keyboard, depending if you're using like mouse based movement or if you're using WASD movement. What we've done is we basically just like consolidated. I'm trying to plug back in my keyboard here. We basically just consolidated the whole like input schemes of the game. So so you can basically use WASD to move while also using your mouth at the same time, and the ability keys are all just shifted over one. So the abilities are E and R now, and our rolling is shift. So shift for roll, E and R for abilities. It's consistent. Basically just made it a lot more simple and easy for everybody. All right. Cursed dungeons. So this is 3 out of 4 of the big, new, important features in this new update. What is Cursed Dungeons? You can basically play through the entire game all over again in a much more difficult mode now. So there is a new Cursed Dungeon mode. This is like basically like a sort of like a hardcore mode. And this is where like a bunch of this stuff you get from Cursed Dungeons. So the spiked armor, the Viking armor, some of these armor sets you can exclusively only get from the Cursed Dungeons. And this is where you're going to really need these enchantments. The Cursed Dungeons are generally very hard, and you're going to need to use all this new armor and enchanting to sort of basically like make your way, sort of get through it. So every single dungeon in the game can be cursed, whether it's one of like the keystone dungeons, whether it's one of like the large boss room dungeons, all of them can be cursed. And then you get unique armor, unique rewards. It's a way to get like basically a bunch of gold, a whole bunch of lightstone, a whole bunch of stuff. And there's cursed boss fights. So I know all of you probably absolutely loved the Void Ball fight, right? And you loved all of those big electricity rings that like come out in a big circle, and you thought they were really, really fun, and you thought it was the most fun boss fight ever. Well, the cursed boss fight of the Void Ball is 2 Void Boars. You have to fight 2 Void Boars at the same time in order to complete the cursed boss fight for the Void Boar. And then the cursed boss fight for the Void Troll is basically an adaptation of the Void Troll. And then the Void Troll, basically, do you know how the Void Troll throws the dozers, the roly-poly things? There is also an elite version of the dozers in the game that spit out lava. So Cursed Dungeons also, I've already forgotten one thing. Let's quickly add this back in. Cursed Dungeons add elite enemies into the game, right? So there is basically a new sort of tier of enemies that you only get in Cursed Dungeons called elite enemies. And they are basically more difficult. I've spelt it completely wrong, but that's okay. Elite enemies. I'm going to drag this up there, and we'll drag that. Well, that there. Elite enemies there. Bam. Elite enemies been added. All right. Final one, and then I'll go through all the stuff that I actually sort of forgot. Let's sort of clear a bit of space so we can see all this a bit easier. And then we'll go into actually make sure I'm on this and this. Bam. Okay. That's probably way too big. Let's go like that. Procedural caves. I know this isn't many points, but there is actually so much new stuff for the procedural caves. So huge new procedural cave system. So we've talked about this in a few videos now. I'm pretty sure a lot of you will have some idea of what this is. The entire map of Lands Island is basically duplicated. Almost every island, almost, not quite. Almost every island in the whole game has a mine entrance, and that basically leads down to a procedural cave network. So there is a huge procedural cave network that is basically mirroring the above world to the below world with all these caves that interlink all the islands. So if you want to travel between islands, there's two ways to do that now. You can actually do that on the water via a boat, or you can actually traverse the procedural cave network and travel underground and then come back up and basically gain access to an island from the underground instead. It's not super easy to traverse the procedural caves though. There'll be broken bridges everywhere that you have to repair. In general, you can build anywhere in this procedural caves. So you actually have to build your way through a lot of the caves. There'll be like big chasms and like sort of cliffs and things like that you have to sort of build staircases and scaffolding in order to get around. The procedural caves are filled with ore. Like they're basically where you're going to do all of your mining. We've sort of removed the mining from the dungeons. The dungeons are relatively exclusively for fighting enemies now, and the procedural caves are where you get to do all your mining. So this is like a really big change because previously in the game you sort of had to dungeon crawl and mine at the same time. You couldn't just go for a big mining run without fighting really difficult enemies. There will be some enemies in the procedural caves, but generally like way less enemies in the procedural caves and a lot easier enemies. The difficulty in the caves comes from like sort of like navigating the terrain. There'll be some little puzzles. There'll be a lot of building to do, a lot of stuff to repair. You'll get very lost in there and you'll have to sort of navigate your way through. And there will be other types of sort of like obstacles and things. There's sort of areas where you can get lightstone and titanium. Those become even more dangerous. There's like lava in the procedural caves and all sorts of stuff. So they're not as dangerous as the dungeons, and you can basically just get completely lost in these procedural caves. You can build down there, you can do whatever you want. And it fully matches the layout of the above world. And then here we go, we've got mining, puzzles, building challenges, parkour, and also rare items. There will be some cool bits of armor and some fun stuff. There'll basically be a miner's helmet with a light somewhere in the procedural dungeons that you have to go find. So there is like some cool stuff that you can get down there as well. And this is like, I can't sort of like, it's easy to sort of undersell this, but like this is so much content. Like we've been working on this for months and making so many levels, so many areas of this procedural cave network. It has really like been a lot of effort to build this. And it is going to grow as the Lens Island map grows. So when we have a future update, where we start to expand the world of Lens Island even further, this procedural cave network will also expand. So this will always match the overworld of Lens Island. If the overworld ever gets bigger, the underworld will also get bigger. All right, and then now for the stuff that I forgot. So let's duplicate this. I'm going to do some just some little photoshopping for a second here. Now we can turn off that. And we've got that. We'll clean up this document, and then at the end here we'll talk about all the stuff that I've forgotten. Okay, so let's drop that in there. And then we've got our second combat. Actually, we'll just add it to farming and misc, right?
Procedural spelled wrong.
Yeah, I spelled procedural really wrong. Procedural. Where's our farming misc? Okay, let's move this up, and then I'll try to just add anything to the bottom of this list that I forgot. Okay, here's our lines. So yeah, multiplayer, Wade, is coming in Multiplayer is coming in full release. That's our big thing. So co-op multiplayer is what we want to add for our full release of Lens Island, as well as like more localizations, having like a bunch of languages, and there would be also looking at potential other platforms to release the game on. So there's a lot to look forward to in the future. Okay. I feel like I've already forgotten the stuff that I've forgotten. I'm in a bit of a quarrel here. Let's move up combat a little bit. Town. That's it. Town. So, one of the big ones. Towns completely reworked. So this again, like, this is just one tiny little point on this board. The town's reworked. But this is a really big deal. This is not a small thing. So Bridgewater, flattened. Bridgewater's gone. Hurricane swept through. It's gone. And it has been redistributed to all around the world. So Bridgewater, there still will be a town on the main spawn island, but it will be a bit smaller, but also a bit more detailed, and like a bit more interesting. There will be 3 towns all spread across the world. So the main spawn island will have a town, the main Dark Forest Island with the dungeon entrance, that will have a town, and then the main desert island with a dungeon entrance, that will also have a town. And there'll be 3 separate towns, all with different villages and NPCs. You'll be able to trade different types of resources across a town. So maybe one town will sell certain flowers and certain resources that another town won't. So you'll actually have to go around the map in order to actually properly like trade with the different NPCs. You won't be able to upgrade the towns anymore. You'll get free access to everything right from the get-go. And we've also removed all the buy and sell limits. So you can just freely trade with everyone now and not have to worry about that. And then we're going to be adding back in like the upgrading and stuff in a different way in the future. So this is just like step 1 of redoing the towns. The other thing that we're doing is like focusing a bit more on the like the dialogue and like the detail. There's no quests just yet. Quests play into the phase 2 of the town as well. So phase 1, which splitting up the town to 3 towns around the world. There's going to be some more NPCs. So the druid is back in the game, and some extra people will be added to the towns. There'll be a little bit more detail. So some of the NPCs will now be like animated and be doing cool stuff. There'll even be like a guitarist in one of the desert towns, so you can like tip him gold and he'll like play a song for you. So it'll be like some cool little like aspects like that to the town. But generally speaking, this is phase 1. Phase 2 is going to sort of take the whole town system to the next level. That's going to happen in the next update. So I'm not going to talk about it too much now. But the towns are generally like a bit cooler, a bit more sort of like styled and interesting now. Split up around the world. This one I feel like deserves its own title. So we're going to give it its own title. Let's steal the survival one. I'm talking about deer. All right, that can just chill away now. Deer can go. Where can deer go? Deer can go here. So, I know it's pretty lonely here by itself. This was another vote that we did. Let's full screen this again. This was another vote that we did. On our last video, we asked basically which new animal do you want to add into the Lens Island. Deer won. There was a choice between goats, sheep, and deer. The very first one that we're going to be adding is deer. I would like to still add goats and sheep in the future. So there will basically be little packs of deer spawning around the forests in Lens Island. And you'll be able to hunt deer and actually get hide and meat from them. You'll be able to cook the meat and make stews and stuff like that with your mushroom farm. And you'll be able to eat it. It'll be really good food. And then you actually need the hide for various little crafting recipes around the game. For example, all of the backpacks, when you upgrade your backpack, will require hide. So you actually need gold coins in order to pay the outfitter to basically convert your hide into a backpack. So you need gold coins and hide in order to get every backpack level. And the hide will also play into some other crafting recipes too. So there'll be deer only in like the forest islands, and the deers will just like naturally sort of like roam around. If you get remotely close to them, if you basically see them on your screen, they'll run away and they'll be very, very hard to chase. But occasionally the deer will like put their heads down and graze and start to eat the grass, and that's where you can walk up behind them, and their detection radius is like a lot smaller, and then you can really quickly slash them with your sword, and sort of take them down and get the resources from them. So there will be sort of like these sort of like relatively interesting sort of like hunting mechanics where you can sort of like stalk the deer from afar, wait till they start grazing, run in there, quickly get them. And I know what you're all going to ask. There's not going to be bows. Bows will not be happening in this update. We've thought about ranged weapons. That's for a later discussion. At the moment, hunting will be happening. You're about to hunt deer or any animals through basically like through the current combat system. I guess the other thing to do with deer, and this is something I talked about in another video, is navigation. And you're thinking what does that mean? I don't even understand what that means. So I'll put it here because it is sort of like a secondary point, I guess. So this is a bit of an interesting point. Just a tiny little thing on this board, and you're thinking, oh, it may not be a big deal. This is basically what makes deer possible, and this is what makes everything a lot more interesting in the whole of Lens Island. Previously, in all the versions of Lens Island, enemies basically couldn't fully navigate. They could only navigate in the dungeons and stuff. Enemies couldn't navigate sort of properly in the above world, and no enemies or animals or anything could navigate around buildings. We've completely overhauled that whole system, and it's now this dynamic navigation system that we've sort of been able to create. So you can now actually have enemies and animals and everything navigate in and around buildings. So even with this next update, right, when we include deer, you'll actually be able to build fences around deer and trap them as pets. You could basically get enemies to chase you into your house, and you could chase enemies could chase you up staircase to the up a staircase to the top level of your house, and then you could trap an enemy in there and keep an enemy as a pet. So all the enemies will fully navigate in and around buildings and have sort of a lot more of an interesting relationship. So this is the beginning. Obviously, with navigation and interacting with buildings combined with deer, you can tell this is the beginning of farming. So this is setting up the basic foundational framework for us to properly add animal husbandry and farms in the future of Lens Island, where there'll be things like sheep and chickens and stuff that you can actually sort of keep as pets and have an actual animal farm. And be able to sort of breed and get stuff from the animals and then use that in your cooking and everything. So that side of things it isn't happening in this next update, but these two things are, and this sets the framework for that future to happen in Lens Island, which I'm very excited about. The idea that I have a big chicken pen and wake up in the morning from Lens Island after doing a big dungeon run, go down to my chickens and toss out some grain and collect their eggs and then bake some pancakes or something. I don't know. I reckon that's really, really cool. That makes me very excited about that aspect. There are still some things I am slightly forgetting, but that is the bulk of it. This is right here, even though my camera is blocking. Let's move me here, I guess. Well, maybe we'll go like that. There we go, beautiful. This right here is what the next Lens Island update entails. And let me just set the scene. This is a halfway update. This isn't even what I would call one of the big milestone updates. This is a big update, right? This is a massive update. But this update wasn't even planned to be this big. We just ended up sort of on the fly combining a bunch of stuff together and built this big update, and we're oh shit, we've got a big update on our hands. The update after this one will be what we call the Act 4 update, and that is the 4th act being added to Lens Island. And what that means is a whole new set of islands, a whole new set of biomes, a whole new set of dungeons, a brand new boss fight, expansion to procedural caves, a brand new tier of weapons, a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not going to give too much away about Act 4 because that's further. That's towards the end of the year. The only sort of I guess little sort of teaser I'll give is you may or may not have already noticed this, but every building style coincides with an act of the game. So the wooden building style matches the first act of the game, which is the spawn island and the green forests. The stone building style matches the second act of the game, where you get into the dungeons and the caves and a lot more the stone building and the towns. The third act, basically the pagoda, the ornate or Mediterranean building style, that matches that act of the game, where it becomes a bit more Mediterranean, a bit more arid. We introduce tropical islands, Mediterranean islands, the birch forests and stuff, and then also the deserts. The fourth building style, the pagoda building style, that doesn't have an act yet, right? That actually doesn't match with any areas of the game. So the next Act 4 update will be the entire region of the world that matches the pagoda style. If that's not clear enough for you, I'll let you fill in the gaps with that. But the next act of the game will be matching the pagoda style, and it's going to be big. So imagine like this is a Lens Island map, and it's going to go like that big, because it's going to be adding in a whole bunch of new biomes, enemies, everything. It's going to be really, really cool. But that's the future. This is the now. What's in front of you? What you're looking at your screen. This is let's get this big again, and I'll actually I can just zoom that in like that. Put this here. Let's just get this all sorted. Bam, and I'll stay here, I guess. Sorry, you can't see the survival. That's okay. But this is phase 1. This is the next update. A lot of new stuff coming. It is very, very exciting stuff. If you have any questions, I'm going to stick around for like 15 minutes or so and basically just answer all of your questions. I'll chuck on the chat again because I was blocking some of the text before. Actually, what I'll do, we'll make that like this so you all can see it fully. And I'll put my camera there and I'll put the chat there. There you go. So now you can like sort of see it all. But yeah, any questions that you all got, hit them at me, hit me with them, and we'll go over them for the next few minutes of the stream. Let's see what I've actually missed out on already. Oh yeah, nav. It is like, yeah. So basically built like a dynamic nav mesh generation system that works because like the whole world of Lens Island is dynamically like procedurally generated. So getting that to work with building and nav mesh is a tricky task, but we were able to get that working. And MP5 is out. Yeah, there won't be any guns. I've never actually, I don't think I've said this like publicly before, but Lens Island is loosely Victorian era. Like early Victorian is like generally the time frame of Lens Island, but it is like an alternate universe. It is not our current world. It is a different world, a different sort of universe, but that is generally the sort of the technology era of Lens Island, by the way. Will deer despawn when you leave? No, deer will save. All the animals will save. So if you have some deer in like a fence and you sort of keep some deer as a pet, those deer will stay there. Like the only way that those deer will leave is if they like die somehow or if you like let them out. So they will like properly save. Yeah. So that's like a really cool part of the game. Yes, it's a juicy, massive update. Have you added corner pieces for the stairs? Not yet, but it's actually a good point. Maybe I'll put that on the list to add the corner pieces because there's a few building pieces that I've been wanting to add for a while. The spelling of procedural. I'm going to zoom in on procedural, seeing as that spelling has annoyed you, Steph. There you go. That's just for you, Steph. There we go. Procedural caves. There's probably so many spelling mistakes in here. Way more than just that. Yes. Oh, that's right. I've actually forgotten about a couple. There's a couple things I forgot in here. That's what I said. There's so much in this update that I keep forgetting everything. I can't believe, man. There's so much. There's just so much. Okay, let's quickly add one more title, right? Because this is actually a pretty big thing. And this can be. We'll make it red. And then we'll go like this. Delete all of that. Okay. New player, what's that? Okay, let's talk about it. I got to make this all perfect while I'm here. So almost got through it all. Lucky Steph reminded us. Player model. Man, I really can't type right now. The player model has been completely remade, redesigned. Brand new clothing system. So this is, I guess, like the beginnings of this. We're not fully sort of taking advantage of this just yet, to be honest. But the whole player model is basically like HD. Len has had a massive glow up. And also the masculine and feminine versions of Len have changed as well. the masculine looks a little bit more masculine, the feminine looks a little bit more feminine. They're just like a little bit more suited to what they should be. And just generally a lot more high definition, and a lot of the animations and stuff have been improved. But I've built like a brand new clothing system, right? So clothing now looks way cooler. But I also built a clothing system that enables community-made clothing. So all the clothing is basically all on one big texture file, and just like Counter-Strike skins or Rust skins or whatever, you can actually like paint your own clothes and design your own clothes to Lens Island. So in a little bit after this update, in like a smaller update, we're going to be basically enabling the community workshop and basically accepting submissions for like custom clothes. So you guys in the community will be able to actually design your own clothes to Lens Island and like submit them, and we'll pick out the best ones, and we'll actually add those clothes into the game for real, and everyone will be able to use your amazing clothes. And they'll be way more detailed, way more cool, a lot more flexibility and sort of customization than ever before. So this is like literally in the game already. It's been in the game for a while in our sort of testing version. So this will just be like the beginnings of this system in the update. There will be the new Len, and there will be some brand new clothes using the new system, but then we're probably going to harness this in like a slightly later update. Yeah, it's my dream to add hats. Technically, there are hats because there are brand new outfits, and some of these actually have hats. For example, like there's a sorcerer's hat. Like you can get a wizard hat in Lens Island now. But yeah, I know we are running out of space. There will never be shoes. Len hates shoes. I'm sorry to say, but we don't like shoes here, right? Len, it's just the way Len does it. Okay, let's go through some of these questions. Oh, I'm just using Photoshop. All of this, I'm just like full screening Photoshop. I've just got Photoshop open here. Are you going to build out the building or armor focused updates after these big? Yeah, all of them. So after this first update, right, when we do the next Act 4 update, there will be whole new sets of armor for that Act 4 update. Another quick, I'm only going to say this on stream now. This won't make it into the YouTube video. I'm not going to say this ever again. Another little secret for the next act is one of the armor sets will be a samurai set of armor, and it's going to look so badass, and I can't wait to use it. And that's all I'm saying. But there will be new armor sets with every single new like content update that we do for Lens Island. There'll be new weapons for new content updates. I guess maybe another little secret. There will be a katana as one of the new weapons for the Act 4 update. If you can't tell what region this next update is, maybe Google Samurai Katana Pagoda and see what comes up. But yeah, I'm very excited for that next act, by the way, if you can't tell. It's going to be so cool. But yeah, there'll be basically all this stuff, like all this new content will all get multiplied with every update of the game, right? So it's like when we release the Act 4 update and expand the world, the whole procedural caves are going to grow. There's going to be a brand, like all new areas of the caves, and that whole part of your map is going to grow. Every single new dungeon in that new update will have a cursed version, and you'll be able to play through all those dungeons twice, once in a normal mode, once in a cursed mode. There'll be new farming items. There'll be a new weapon. Like there'll be new stuff to build. Like every single part of the game will like equally expand whenever we release like a big new content update. So what this update now is basically is like setting the scene and setting the foundation for us to properly grow the game in like a really like substantial way. So now every time we do an update after this big one here, it's just going to be like so much playtime. Like when we do the Act 4 update, there's literally just going to be like 100 hours of playtime ready to go that you can like take advantage of, collect a whole bunch of rare stuff, build a whole bunch of new things, explore a bunch of new areas. It's going to be really cool. What else we got? I haven't really understood in the future, like maybe next year. Oh yeah, sorry. I was about to talk about like the armor and questing system, and then I got sidetracked. So part 2 of the towns is what I'm sort of calling like the villager system, right? So imagine the towns that changed for this update now. They're a bit more like Diablo towns. So if you ever played Diablo, or even like maybe Minecraft, I guess to an extent, the towns in Lens Island are like that. They're trade posts. You have like everything unlocked, all there ready to go. And you basically travel the world, go to these different trade posts to buy and sell items and to purchase things and stuff like that. And that's sort of that's the extent of what the towns are going to be. But then scattered across all the islands in the game, all of like the safe islands, like the tropical islands, green forest islands, birch forest islands, Mediterranean islands, there will be different villages that actually have homes living on those islands. So you'll find people like just basically scattered around the map. So for example, let's say I set sail on my raft. This isn't for the next update. This is for like Act 4 plus update, by the way. This is none of this is like sort of exactly planned on the timeline yet. But this is what we've planned internally and what we've like started working on behind the scenes. So let's say there's a lumberjack living on a forest island somewhere. You can go visit that lumberjack and basically give the lumberjack wood and resources and do little sort of like quests and missions for that lumberjack. And the lumberjack will basically expand their operation as you give them more stuff. They'll expand their home, they'll build like a lumber mill and start to like expand out their little area on that island. And then the lumberjack will be able to like give you wood and give you resources in return. So think about this, there'll be like this system where you can actually build a relationship and help all of these little villages around the world basically grow their houses and grow their sort of operations. And then in return, they will give you the resources that they harvest. So if there's a miner living in like a quarry, they will basically give you stone and like sort of like mining stuff, mining resources. If there's a farmer that you can help expand their farm, they will give you, you know, crops, like harvests from crops and seeds and stuff like that. So that's going to be like the step 2 of this town system. Is there's going to be the Diablo towns or whatever spread around the world, but then there's going to be individual people living around the world that you can basically go out and find and then actually help them grow their house and get rewards for that too. And they will have little like quests and little things you'll be able to do with them. So yeah, that's the future of that side of the game. You won't have to create a new character for this update. We're not going to force you to wipe your save file. We're going to try and make as much sort of carryover as possible. The only things that we're going to have to be like forced to sort of wipe in the new update is obviously the town. So like all the houses that you build in the town for the villages won't be there, and like the whole town won't be there in the town levels because like the whole town's changing. But all of your resources and your inventory and all of your buildings and your boats and your progression throughout the dungeons, all of that will save. None of that's getting wiped. So we're going to try our hardest with every single major update to make sure that we don't wipe progress, and we try to keep everything sort of like consistent as much as possible. Samurai Pagoda must be Italy. Quick keys upgraded separate from backpack. What do you... Quick keys. I'm not sure what you mean by that. How's the skill tree changing? The skill tree is just becoming bigger. So the skill tree is becoming bigger, but there will also be like choices on the skill tree. So there will be some paths in the skill tree where you will actually have to pick like, do I want to go down the A path or the B path? And you can only actually pick one. So there will be some proper, I guess, like choices that are a bit more meaningful that will be adding to the skill tree. And the skill tree in general become longer and bigger. And there will also be like a more variety of like different things that you can actually get on the skill tree. So you'll be able to progress Len's Island, or like the Len as a player, a fair bit further than what you could previously do on the skill tree. Yeah, so sea monsters. This is another thing that we're preparing for in the future. So part of our navigation change, this one here, part of that change was to also make navigation work throughout the ocean, which we've successfully done. So what that now gives us the ability to do is have sea animals or sea enemies, stuff like krakens and sharks and jellyfish or whatever. So that is an area of the game that I would definitely like to build upon in the future, is having different actual like enemies that can like, you know, you can have a relationship with in the ocean. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to building upon that in the future. Any events in the games, hurricanes, damaging land, building. Yeah, like all of that sort of stuff, we will be continually trying to like slowly add. Like I love that sort of stuff, you know, like having like big storms that knock down trees. So like that's actually a good point. That's another thing that I forgot to add to this list. So much stuff I forgot to add to this list. There's just too much to remember sometimes. weather, and then underneath it in small text, lightning. So there's been some weather changes in this next update. One significant change to do with the weather is during storms, there's actual like lightning strikes. So lightning strikes can actually like strike the ground, and they can strike trees, they can strike your house. They will like make trees catch on fire and fall down if the lightning strikes them. They can strike you and they can kill you. And there's also like a brand new like status effect system and stuff on the back end. So if you're swimming through water, you'll have like the wet status effect, and the player will be wet. And anytime that you're wet, you'll be way more prone to lightning strikes. So if you are like swimming out in the ocean during a storm, you will almost certainly get struck by lightning and you will probably die. So there's like a couple like things to look for. To do with lightning striking your house, that's another area that we've already planned for. So we're not going to make your house like actually get destroyed by lightning, but what we are going to add in the future is the ability to build lightning rods. And then if you build lightning rods on top of your roofs, you can actually collect the lightning and do stuff with it. That's for the future though. I'm not going to talk about that too much now, but basically the new lighting system and some of the weather changes is us just starting the beginnings of making some more like world-based events, some more like different kinds of weather, different stuff like that. I would really like to add more and more of it over time. Things like, adding like a blood moon where there's like enemies everywhere, or like whatever, adding like sandstorms and this and that, adding in like different kinds of like world events that have different implications. Not all of them have to be like bad, right? Like some of them also could be like good, you like once a fortnight there is like a harvest moon or something, and then like you stay up all night harvesting your crops because the moon is like super bright and it gives some sort of status effect. Like the different sort of like cool things, like events around the world is definitely something I'd like to keep working on. And so yeah, we have thought about that for this update, and we've done some stuff to start catering towards it. Cursing the dungeons at the moment is like an on-off style. We have in the back end added the ability to add several levels to the cursed dungeons. So the way the cursed dungeons work in this update is like once you complete a dungeon for the first time, you gain the ability to curse it. So when you come back out, the obelisk in front of that dungeon is all like blown up, and you can like select it, and then you pay Dark Essence. At the moment, it's 50 Dark Essence. So there's actually like a really substantial reason to collect and store Dark Essence now, because Dark Essence is like the currency of basically doing cursed dungeon runs. You pay 50 Dark Essence, that curses the dungeon, and that will curse it only for that one run. So the second you leave the dungeon or die, the curse goes away and it gets reset back to a normal dungeon. So this is also a way to make dungeons a tiny bit easier if you're dying all the time. So you may have noticed if you die in a cursed dungeon, the dungeon resets. So you will be able to go back and get your stuff, and you don't have to keep fighting through the really hard cursed dungeon if you keep dying. You could just like go back and get your stuff in normal dungeon mode, which is way easier, and then regroup, regain all your stuff, and then sort of come back later and then try to finish the cursed mode. And like the cursed mode, there will be like cool rewards at the end of the cursed dungeon that you'll only get if you actually get right to the end and complete it. And also the cursed dungeons have like a tiered system just like the normal dungeons. So you have to complete the 3 keystone cursed dungeons before you can unlock the main cursed dungeon. It's like the main larger one with the boss fight. And every main dungeon, the cursed dungeon version of that, is like very hard. Like it is harder than the 3 previous ones. And in the future, we might add several levels to cursed dungeons. We might add more. Yeah, we're not planning on adding any events that destroy your home, so you don't have to worry about that. And if for some reason we did, there would always be a way to like counteract it, like a relatively easy way to like stop that from ever happening. Don't go out storm swinging a pickaxe. Exactly. Yeah, Blue Moon, Magic Surge. Yeah, I would love the idea of like electricity and magic in a future of Lens Island. That's something we've already sort of planned for. Water tower is the only thing that needs power at the moment, yes. But that system will be expanded in the future. So yeah, hardcore and creative mode are still on the agenda as well. That's likely going to be part of the Act 4 update. The one after this one is when we actually enable like a proper hardcore mode, and then a proper creative mode. Creative mode is basically just like a big flat world where you can just like test out making a bunch of buildings. Hardcore mode is if you die, it deletes your save file. It is hardcore. It is like Minecraft hardcore for all of the super hardcore people. And there'll be some like interesting rewards that you can get from finishing hardcore mode that you can't get from any other mode. Yeah, look, it just keeps getting better and better, right? It's like Lens Island it's just sort of like this. It just like every single update, we really just sort of like keep expanding it. It just takes time because we're such a small team. It's interesting that you say that, Michael. Actually, I'm changing the spawners. I'm pretty sure you're talking about the spider crab sort of spawners in the dungeon, right? Oh, sorry, in the deserts. We're actually changing them. So you can actually destroy those like spider crab spawners. You have to pickaxe them. Like you have to dig them out of the ground in order to destroy them. They take a while to get out. They're like annoying to clear, but you can actually delete them permanently, and they're not there. They're not there permanently. So you will be actually able, in this next update, you'll be able to fully clear out a desert island and make the top of the desert island like safe, and no enemies will respawn there. So it will be a lot easier to build like large houses and things on the desert islands after you've like sort of completely cleared them out. So that is one aspect that we're changing. There's lots of little stuff like that, like all throughout the game that we just made it, just like improve the balancing, made it a little bit better experience. Yeah, like the reason, like the cursed dungeons are going to be hard, but when I say like the cursed dungeons are really hard, I'm sort of saying that in relation to the current game. What makes the cursed dungeons easy is all of this stuff, right? Like you will then have access to a bigger, more powerful skill tree. You'll get access to all these crazy weapon enchantments and all this crazy armor. So if you were to like sort of ignore the cursed dungeons and then just play through the game normally and basically get all of this stuff and just get loaded up on all of these like powerful gear, you could come back to the cursed dungeons later and get through them like relatively easy. They will still be hard. Like no matter what, they're going to be like generally a bit hard. But you can make them way, way easier for yourself because you can just completely choose when you want to do them. So if you want to do a cursed dungeon right at the start of the game, they're going to be like almost impossible. But if you do them at the end of the game, then they'll be much easier. Can you explain what Lens Island is in a few sentences? Lens Island is a top-down action-adventure game combining farming, creative building, dungeon crawling, and exploration. Done. I actually didn't pre-rehearse that. I just sort of made that up. It sounded like it was pre-rehearsed, so. But yeah, honestly, imagine Lens Island is like Valheim had a baby with Diablo and Minecraft and Stardew Valley. That's sort of the best way that I can explain it. And it's getting better and better every day, and we're trying very, very hard to make it better and better every day. All right, I'm going to have to end the stream soon in a couple minutes, so just get last couple questions. I'll answer 3 more questions. 3, not 4. And then I have to end because I have to get back to developing Lens Island. I've got a lot of work to do today. Any plans to allowing NPCs to increase levels or travel the map? Or not sure, Alan. That stuff we'll get a bit deeper into when we start planning that phase 2 of the town. But it would be really cool to do that sort of stuff. The game is already out. So the game Lens Island is out right now in early access. So you can, it'll probably be in the description of the stream. You can literally like go play Lens Island on Steam right now. And then all of this is the update that we're currently working on that will come out in a month or so. But yeah, so Lens Island is in early access. We're slowly building it up. And then the full release of Lens Island will be in around like a year and a half from now. And that full release will include multiplayer, will include probably like around double or triple the amount of content in the game now, and a bunch more fun stuff. All right, one more question. You guys got some good descriptions. All right, one more question, and then I'm gonna have to end the stream, head out. But look, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun explaining this update to you because it's sort of like we work on the stuff so hard and we work on it so long, like in private, just at the studio. And sometimes it's not easy to like fully sort of explain all the stuff that we're working on. So I thought this is like a really good opportunity to just like go through everything step by step, every little feature, and properly explain all the things that we're adding to the game. So then everyone watching, everyone that sort of is a fan of Lens Island, you can actually like properly understand all the specifics. I feel like I wish more games did this. It actually annoys me so much that like every single game that I play, the developers never tell me what the hell they're working on. And like nothing ever specific. It's always like so broad and general. It's like the developers don't even know what they're working on themselves. But like to make anything in games, it takes forever. Like it takes months and months and months or years to build features in games. So it's like you sort of have to know exactly what you're working on for a long time before it's ready. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be like super transparent, super upfront, and just tell you exactly what we're doing. And we're trying to like basically let the community dictate what we add to Lens Island as much as possible, because like Lens Island is for all of you. Like although Lens Island is my like idea of like a perfect game, I'm not making Lens Island for me. I'm making it for all of you. I'm just making what I believe to be a really good game. But at the end of the day, it's just like it's everybody else that's really playing it and like paying for it, and it means more to all of you, playing Lens Island than it does to me. For me, what really means a lot to me is just to make sure that people enjoy it, and like I build a game that's fun and enjoyable and people appreciate. So that's what this is all for. One last question, or what do we got? Cool, Slider. I'll let Cheddar know. I'll let him know about that. Cool. Can you upgrade towns? Can you upgrade townspeople so they can buy more of your? We've basically gotten rid of that feature, so there won't be any buy and sell limits anymore on the towns. I feel like that was just like a bit too oppressive, and I just didn't really like it. Being forced to just like upgrade the town in order to sell more stuff. I don't know. I feel like it didn't really work very well. So basically what we've done in this next update is there's no buy and sell limits. You can buy and sell stuff to your heart's content. The only thing that will like limit how much things you can buy and sell is like how much of that stuff you have. The other thing too is you actually have to travel a little bit to buy and sell now. So there's only so many resources that you can buy and sell from the main town on the spawn island. If you, for example, if you want to buy, or like if you have like a marigold farm, you can sell your marigolds at the town on the spawn island, but the other towns don't purchase marigolds from you. So if you have a lavender farm, the only place you can sell lavender in Lens Island is in the town on the Dark Forest Island. And like the only place you can sell like olives and passion fruit is a town on the desert island. So if you want like a really varied farm where you're farming a whole bunch of stuff, you will actually have to sort of travel around the world in order to like sort of buy and sell those goods. And I consider that like a much more interesting, like meaningful gameplay than just like going up to someone in one place and then it's like, oh, there's a limit. Oh, I guess I'll wait a day. Like one of those things actually has gameplay tied to it and exploration, and it has sort of like, you're traveling throughout the world, and one of them is just like a big timer that you just wait. So it's like, that was like a better solution for that, after sort of doing some testing. How am I supposed to? Yeah, no, I'm sorry, Wade. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry if I've given you all, just like withdrawals of Lens Island after explaining how much better it's going to get. But look, what you can do though is, I know I've like plugged it already, but we have our Patreon live, and, you get access to literally like half the stuff on this screen right now. You can play right now if you're a Patreon supporter. It's only available for the alpha access tier. And if that's not something that you're interested or can't afford or anything, that's completely fine. Like just wait till the update. You just have to be a little bit patient, and then you'll get it for free if you already own the game. But like if you do want to help us, shape Lens Island updates, if you want to really sort of like help grow the game alongside us devs, the Patreon is the best place to do that. Because basically we have a limited amount of slots that we give to alpha testers and beta testers through the Patreon, and you get access to builds months before they come out publicly, and you get access to some like exclusive chats in the Discord where you can just chat one-on-one with me and basically tell me everything you love or hate about the update. Tell me everything you love or hate about Lens Island, and we will actually like change and shape Lens Island based on your feedback. So if you want to like really contribute to the game and actually like change Lens Island, that is 100% the best way to do it. And like we have already been changing these features based on Patreon feedback. Like if you were to sign up, you would literally instantly get access to Discord chat and see me talking to other alpha testers and see that I've like literally, they're going, oh, maybe you should change the backpack to this or do this. And I go, oh, that's a good idea. And I changed it. But yeah, like for many years, we basically had people ask how they can support the studio. And I just never wanted to do anything that wasn't really sort of giving back and like meaningful. I didn't want to just like sell crappy merch or accept donations or anything like that. I just like, it's not something I'm really interested in. But this was a way that we could like really meaningfully sort of like, you know, give people access to the game and let people help shape the game that they care about. And then give them a way to sort of support us. Because we are a tiny little indie studio sort of making our way through the world. So it does really make a big difference, all of it. Yeah, it's a good idea, Alan. I think over time we might set up like a more like robust voting system for when we do like the vote for ideas and stuff. Like when we do YouTube videos and Discord votes, we might like sort of do it on our website or something and have some sort of like nice sort of voting system. Drock, if you're an alpha tester right now, just make sure you've joined the Discord because the Patreon page will give you access to like a sort of like an exclusive Discord group. And there's a message inside that Discord channel. There's also a Patreon message as well. If you go to our Patreon page, there's a private message only for alpha testers that show you how to gain access to the update. You play it through Steam and you can do it right now. Cool. And I guess like one like sort of like important thing is it's just like you're not like a tester. Like we don't force you to test the game or anything. It's literally just like, here you go, here's the game, have fun. And if you want to give us feedback and if you want to find bugs and you want to do any of that, like that's amazing. It's completely up to you. There's no strings attached. That's like a really important thing. It's like, but like what I found is a bunch of our alpha testers and Patreon supporters actually want to be QA testers one day and actually like really enjoy game design and want to like become game designers. So they really enjoy like the nitty gritty stuff and sort of giving us a lot more detailed feedback and bug reports and things, which is awesome. Like that is like, I really, really appreciate it. Okay, that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for coming on board and watching the stream. Here you go. Take one last screenshot before I end the stream. This is everything we're adding into the new Lens Island update. There's probably more things I forgot. You'll find them when the update goes live. And there will be a recap video of this on the YouTube channel this weekend as well. So you'll be able to see all of this again if you watch that. But yeah, thanks for coming on board. Thanks for your comments. It's been an absolute pleasure. I stream every Tuesday and Thursday morning Australian time, and then sometimes I try and stream Sundays as well if I'm working from home. So if you want to catch me, I'll be streaming at least twice a week around this time, and then sometimes 3 times a week. And I'm going to be doing that very consistently from now on. But yeah, have an amazing day, everybody. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.